Guys, what's the most obvious hint you've got from a girl that turned out not to be a hint? This happened in my last year of high school. I had a crush on a girl in a band. I played clarinet. She played flute. We were both in the first row, so we sat directly across from each other and naturally looked at each other during rehearsals. At our school, all the graduating band kids were allowed to write a short blurb which would be included in the program for a spring concert. Anyways, concert day rolls around and I'm hanging around backstage, flipping through the program, waiting for the parents to start arriving. I eventually got to her blurb. Her favorite band memory was looking across at a certain clarinet player. Turns out it wasn't me. Story 2. I met a woman at a bar when we were both in our early 20s. After leaving, we went back to her place to talk and smoke. She excused herself to the bathroom and returned in a tiny tank top. She sat down next to me and asked if I'd like to lie down with her. So we crammed ourselves onto her couch. I held her close and she kept putting herself against me. When I finally made a move, she said, "Oh, I don't like you like that. I just get lonely and want to feel something against my back sometimes." I got up and left, went home and got intoxicated with my buddies. Story 3. Went to a girl's place to watch the Olympics. It was our second date. She told me I could stay and sleep over because we had been drinking. Her brother and his girlfriend were there, so I didn't think anything of it. It started to get late and asked her for some blankets and pillows to sleep on the couch. She told me that I could just sleep in her bed with her. I still did not think anything of it. Her brother gave some pajamas to wear, and I changed and got into bed while the girl was brushing her teeth. Next thing you know, she walks into the bedroom and gets into bed. It caught me off guard. I was suddenly filled with happiness. I moved in to kiss her. We hadn't before, and she said, "I'm not ready for that." I was so damn confused. I just said okay, then rolled over and questioned reality until I fell asleep. Story 4. Friend in college. We spent a lot of time together. Moved apart eventually, but we would talk on the phone for hours a few times a week. Started saying I love you to each other. One of her friends where she lives forces her to go on a blind date. She never says anything to me about it after that day. Continue on for months, talking and saying I love you. She flies up to visit me. I ask her to actually make this official and be my girlfriend. She says she's getting married in a couple months to the blind date guy. A year and a half of therapy and medication later, I met my now wife. Story 5. I had a coworker keep flirting with me. She gave me her Facebook and phone number. She constantly kept seeking me out just to talk about nothing. She'd always have those do-me eyes and tone of voice. Eventually, she messages me to pick her up at a parking lot and we go around town sharing ice cream and loitering in random stores until 3 a.m. Then she randomly asks to come over at midnight. She lived an hour away, so she came over at midnight to a guy's house she only knew from working with him for 2 weeks and going out. We sat in my room and we put a movie on. Then she refuses to cuddle. She talks about how boys are always trying to make a move on her, and she then takes out her diary from high school and reads it to me. It's probably the most what the hell is going on experience I've had with a girl ever. Up until that point, I was 100% sure if I made a move she was going to have her way with me. Story 6. In high school, these two popular girls thought they'd have a laugh by going up to the nerdy group of boys and asking them one by one when they were alone if they'd be interested in having a date with them. Then when the boys said yes, they'd pull a date, the fruit, out of their pocket and laugh. I guess they just assumed because we were nerds that we would desperately say yes and they'd have a good laugh. But they got a pretty big awakening when of the 5 boys they ended up doing this to, all 5 rejected them. We then had some girls come over and say that we were mean for making her cry, but I reckon it's a hell of a lot more cruel to plan on embarrassing a bunch of teenage boys the way she was going to than us taking what they said seriously and respectfully declining. Story 7. Usually on Fridays after work, I like to go to a coffee shop to catch up with some more work. Yes, I'm a bit of a workaholic. This girl, who's about my age, late 20s, works as a barista there. Sometimes she has the Friday afternoon shift, sometimes she doesn't. Anyway, she was always sort of flirty to me, which I initially attributed to her job persona. A few weeks ago, she was there at the register with a group of friends and she was outright flirty. You know when a group of friends gets all silly and giggly. The moment I crossed the door, they even said, "Oh, here comes your coffee boyfriend." I played along. No awkwardness at all. It was a fun time. She even insisted I didn't pay for my coffee. She didn't take my money. A couple of hours later, I'm done with my work and I approach her to say thanks. She apologizes in a very cute way. I tell her it's cool and ask her out. I have a boyfriend. P.S. I still go there. It's not awkward at all. Story 8. I went to Renfest with some friends. Tagging along was a girl I hadn't met before as she came along with one of my other friends. We walked around for the better part of the day and I noticed at almost every opportunity she was being very flirty with me. Made several brushes up against my arms and seemed to want to hold my hand a lot. I took this as a sign that she was interested in me, but as it turned out, she was using me to shield herself away from the other friend that she came with, who was quite interested in her. I felt pretty crappy about it afterwards, and it was a big blow to my already fragile ego. Story 9. I had a first date with a girl that went really well, and after I got home, I got a text from her that said, "You left your dessert from dinner. Should I come drop it off?" I immediately replied that I'd just come over and pick it up. She said we could hang out a little more, maybe play some video games. It was midnight, so of course I figured come pick up your dessert and play some video games meant come over for intimacy. So I hauled back onto the freeway to get over there. Cut to 20 minutes later, I'm eating a brownie and helping her pick up multiplayer-only trophies in LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean. We've been dating for 3 years. Story 10. Growing up, my neighbor was pretty flirty. In retrospect, she may have just been naive. A couple incidents come to mind. I was at their house while they had some friends over. Neighbor girl calls me into her room with her friends, demands to know who's cutest. She called out her and her friends' features. I was helping her with the math homework. I don't remember the exact instances, but every couple problems, she would turn my wording into a sexy euphemism. She had a birthday party when she turned like 15. At some point, she pulled me into her room to dance alone with me. She put on some slow jazz and we started dancing. She even dimmed the freaking lights and lit candles. After a couple minutes, I go to kiss her and she freaks out and leaves. Her hormonal self has never been more confused. Story 11. I needed a haircut for my friend's wedding that I'd been putting off until the last minute, and since it was early September, all the places I usually went and could get one quickly were full of kids getting their back-to-school haircuts. So after a long search, I found a hair salon that could take me. The girl cutting my hair was very nice, and we were talking about a lot of stuff. Some things I thought were more than just small talk, like local places we both went to and things we did when we were kids. She also mentioned several times that she was a single mother. I took her constant mentioning of her being a single mother to mean she was single, so after I paid and left, I thought about it for a while and worked up the nerve to go back and ask her out, thinking she had been sending me signals. When I did, she told me she had a boyfriend. Looking back, I think she was playing up the mother part of single mother, so I'd give her a bigger tip, which I did. Story 12. I was in high school and worked a part-time job with a girl from my school. She was pretty flirty with me at work. She always asked the manager to take a break anytime she saw me go for mine. One time she had me hold her phone and told me to tell her if it vibrated because she was expecting a text. It did, and when I gave the phone to her to check it, she jumped up and down laughing, saying her grandma is visiting her for the weekend and was hugging all over me. She ended up asking me on a date to go bowling. I show up, and her friend that I've never met is there, too. She ends up flirting with other random guys in front of me and wanders off with them, leaving me alone with her friend. The friend then told me she would never do that to me and asked if I wanted to be her boyfriend. It was so obvious she had been flirting with me the last few weeks just to try to set me up with her friend who was far less attractive than she was. I saw through it right away and noped out of there. Later at work, the girl was like, sorry it didn't work out with you and my friend. Flirting stopped and she quit shortly after. Story 13. Senior year of high school, there was this cheerleader that asked for my number and would always flirt with me, saying we'd be the cutest couple in the school and always wanted me to come over to her apartment in downtown Indy and told me to make her my WCW. Also spent so much time with me at a concert we coincidentally saw each other at. Also danced with me at a fundraiser in high school when the music turned into a party. The whole high school was telling me to ask her out already because signals could never be more clear. When I asked her out to lunch, she freaked out and was shocked that I would interpret friendship for that. Story 14. A friend of mine had recently broken up with her boyfriend and we both got pretty intoxicated at a party. She started getting super flirty and was hanging all over me. We were getting looks from people at the party. She asks if we can go back to my place. I didn't ever really think of her that way. We met while she was in a relationship and had established a friendship that wasn't romantic in the slightest, but she's cute and I figured, why not? So we get back to my place and she's sitting on the couch. I go to make a move and immediately I can tell she's not down. She literally just wanted to sleep on my couch instead of going to her own place. It was awkward and embarrassing, but we laughed it off and we're still friends. 2 years later. I've since learned that she's a total flirt when she gets intoxicated and to not think anything of it. Story 15. Back in high school, a girl used to try to get me to come over to her house all the time. I, of course, didn't want to. I was socially awkward and bad with girls. Soon she started to bribe me with things. Oh, we can play on the Wii, or we could go out in my backyard tonight and you can teach me about the constellations. Well, I still felt kind of weird. She was 2 years my junior and I was going to college. So I waited until my last month at home until I decided to actually take her up on the offer. Long story short, she picks me up, starts flirting with me. Oh, I'm going to miss you so much. Gets really close to me, that sort of thing. We finally got to her house and we were chilling on the couch. I put my arm around her and she gets this what the heck kind of face. Immediately stopped, acted like I didn't notice her expression and proceeded to be low-key angry for the rest of the night. In the end, just flat out destroyed her in the chest and walked home. Story 16. I was about 13 or 14 playing Dig Dug in an arcade. This was back in the 80s. When a cute girl came up and said, "You dropped your token." I turn and say, "Oh, thanks," and start turning to face her, but I'm in the middle of my game, so I hesitate a little. She says with a smile, "That's okay, I'll put it back for you." Reaches deep into my front pocket, pulls her hand out, then seems to stand right behind me. Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. What do I say to this girl? A few seconds later, my game is over. Who could concentrate at that point? I turn around with a smile and she's gone. I reach into my front pocket and think, oh, she accidentally grabbed the $50 bill I had in my pocket. So I walked all around the arcade for the next few minutes looking for her. It took me way too long to figure out what happened. Story 17. There was this girl in my college who briefly dated one of my good friends and broke up unexpectedly, and we continued hanging out after they broke up. We would drink, go to bars, concerts, etc., and many times it was just the two of us. A few times we would get too intoxicated and sleep over at each other's places, and every time we slept in the same bed. We definitely spooned since our beds were twin beds, but neither of us ever made advances, although I had some feelings for her. I remember waking up one day with her staring at me and she said, "Did we do anything last night?" I say, "No. Did you want to?" She replies, "Thank God, no." Cue me crying inside. Story 18. Yesterday, a lady from work, constantly flirting with me and even making food for me, asked if I wanted to go out with her to the NJ State Fair. I said sure and was pretty excited about it. Went to the fair. She was a no-show. No call, no text, nothing. So there I was at the fair. It's hot as hell by myself. Tried to make the most of it, but since I was alone, they didn't let me on most of the rides. Yeah, didn't know there was a rule against single people. I saw her today at work. Asked her why she didn't tell me she wasn't coming. She acted shocked that I actually went. No crap, I was actually going to go. If I promise I'll do something, I'm going to do it. Got stood up and it was all her idea. My one day off working. Ruined. Story 19. I am a girl and this actually happened to me. After a night of partying, I was asleep on a couch because we had limited space. When I realized a bed was available, I started to move there, which woke up an intoxicated guy. The bed was big, so with a mix of social anxiety and good intentions, I asked him if he wanted to share it and sleep with me, with absolutely no intention to do anything. However, I somehow convinced myself that he would just assume that and that I didn't need to explicitly say it. The guy looked confused and told me he had a girlfriend. Instead of just leaving him alone, I repeated, "That isn't a problem. Come on, there's space for both of us up here." About 2 or 3 times. He shifted uncomfortably, clearly put off my persistence. Thankfully, I eventually gave up on him and just went to the bed, thinking, that guy's an idiot. Beds are nicer than the floor or the couch, and now there's more space for me. I woke up the next morning and he was nowhere to be found. It was then that the realization hit me. In his mind, I was totally asking for intimacy and seemed desperate because of my persistence. Story 20. I was talking to this girl for a good half of my high school year. She was really awesome. Really fun to be around, really pretty, just a great person in general. I'd liked this girl for 2 years now, and I just started to genuinely talk to this girl. It got to the point where she told me she liked me since last year, and that was a big shock to me since I'm not the greatest looking person. Anyways, we were going places, doing things for about a good month, a really great month. I've been dealing with crap, and so had she. Trust issues, she said, so we never made a relationship out of it. Turns out she just used me for attention and therapy, so she told me she liked me to keep her happy. I would have been fine if she didn't lie to me and break my heart so badly I didn't even care about anything. Dumb for me to do as well. I failed my classes and I've never felt worse about it. I never wanted to like anyone ever again because that crap messed me up. Here I am now though, lit as hell, passing my chem class, with the best girl I could have ever asked for. There's no point being stuck up on someone who messed you up. Story 21. In high school I was good friends with this girl. We were interested in each other when I was 16, but we were a little young and nothing ever happened. A few years later, we're still friends, and she's with one of my best friends at the time. I left to another country for a couple of years. I ended up staying in contact with her while I was gone, and when I came back, we hung out quite a bit. One day she invited me to spend a weekend at her grandparents'. I figured this was a big deal and a clear opportunity to make a move. I tried a couple times, but she would smoothly dodge my advances, which I thought was weird. It became pretty awkward, so a few days later I went over to her place just to get it out in the open. Turns out she just thought we were friends and thought it would be fun to hang out for the weekend. Possibly the most awkward moment of my life. Story 22. I was head over heels for this girl in drama class in high school. It was the end of the year. Some of us were talking in a circle. They said, "Yeah, you should audition for the theater company. You'll get girls guaranteed. His auditions are in a couple days to be in the cast for next year." The girl I'm into comes behind me, wraps her arms around me, and says, "Yes, you should join." I joined. I asked her out in the first semester of the year. She said no. She left the cast at the beginning of the second semester. Unrelated to me, she had a band. So now I'm stuck in a theater company for the rest of the year, meaning I'm staying at school after school ends, and the whole reason I entered, the girl leaves the company. Sadness, tears, melancholy. I guess I fit in with a drama cast after all. Story 23. I was on a second date with a girl. We'd already made out a little bit in my car, and she invited me up to her apartment. In her bedroom, she became pretty chatty. And by chatty, I mean she kept talking about how she considers herself to be an adventurous girl and really loves to do it. A few minutes later, she finally sat down on the bed with me and I made a move, and she pushed me off. Turns out she didn't mean me. Bonus round. A few years ago, there was this girl I had a crush on. She was sweet, but had terrible taste in men. Always ended up with dudes that would hurt her. Anyway, one day we were hanging out and she brought up her crappy love life, and then, you're a really great guy. I wish someone like you would just ask me out. Well, now that you mention it, you're a great girl too. Dinner date on Friday? Oh. Oh, no, I didn't mean you. I meant someone like you, but attractive. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 24. I was a class clown, friendly with everyone, especially my crush. A group of us had gathered, including her, and everyone was laughing and having a good time. It seemed like the right time to ask her out. She laughed and said yes. I was thrilled, and later that day I met her at her locker and started chatting her up. She looked confused but chit-chatted for a minute and headed to class. I went on with my day, bragging to anyone who would listen that I had the girl of my dreams. At the end of the day, I went to meet her at her locker but couldn't find her. Apparently, she had left crying because she found out I had been telling people we were dating. Class clown is great until no one takes you seriously. She thought me asking her out was just part of my act. It's one of those moments I think about at 3 a.m., in the dark, cringing. Story 25. I went out with some mates, and one of them, let's call him Pat, met a girl in the bar we were in. Pat is a massive film nerd who had recently broken up with an off-and-on girlfriend and had been feeling particularly down. So we were all pleased to see him hit it off. This lady was also really into comic book films and suggested ditching everyone so she and Pat could go back to hers and watch X-Men 3 The Last Stand. Pat told her she wanted to go back to hers and to watch X-Men 3 and chill. We congratulated him and wished him safe passage. 4 hours later, we got a message on our group chat. Turns out she really did just want to watch X-Men 3 and had no intention of anything else. He wasn't even disappointed in not getting but feared for his life when he realized they were watching the film unironically. As everyone, even people in the deepest, darkest jungles of the Congo, knows that X-Men The Last Stand is a flaming piece of crap. Story 26. Hanging out with a buddy at Vintage Stock looking for magic cards because MTG hits you hard when you start learning the game. Turns out the cute girl at the register that I told him I was crushing on a little before he got there was his cousin. Small world. They talked and caught up, then when she was off work, the three of us smoked a little in her car. Then she asked him what his number was so they could keep in touch. Then she looked at me and said, "Here, I'll need yours too." Heck yeah, right? So I gave her my phone and had her put hers in. I asked her out in the baseball game with him and his date. She said yes, so we bought the tickets. Well, the day of the game, about 30 minutes into the game, he shows me a text from her saying, "Is this a double date? He knows I have a boyfriend, right?" Hell no. How would I know that? Not even halfway through the game, she leaves saying she has plans, and I was stuck there's a third wheel with my friend and his date feeling like an idiot. I left like 30 minutes later. Not gonna lie, still pretty salty about that one. Story 27. I did this to someone and felt so bad. Years ago, I sold phones and was helping a customer who couldn't get picture messages. He came in alone, so I used my phone to try to send a picture message. By the way, it was an ugly coffee table I was trying to get rid of, so it was not like a selfie or anything. He spoke as I fixed his device, and once it went through, I wrapped up the conversation we were having about the coffee I had, and he was on his way. I didn't think anything of this. Until 3 days later, I got a random text asking me when I was working and if he could bring me a coffee to work as a thank you. I said no thank you, but that I appreciated the offer. The next text, he asked me out on a date that I politely declined. I was wondering how he got my number since I deleted the texts. Well, it turns out the first picture message was sent twice, and he got one as he was sitting in his car after leaving my store. Homeboy got slightly upset and asked why I had sent him the ugly coffee table text again if I didn't want to go on a date. It was amazingly awkward for both of us, and I felt so dumb. Story 28. Back in college, my roommates and I threw a decent-sized party one night. I'd been flirting with a particular girl for a while. She was a friend of a friend we'd met casually a few times, and things seemed to be going well, but nothing had happened yet. Towards the end of the night, I was pretty tired, and the party was winding down. I said goodnight to the handful of people left, headed to my bedroom, and crawled into bed. A few minutes later, she walked in and crawled in with me. At this point, I thought, hell yeah, I know where this is going. So I rolled over, pulled my arm around her, and snuggled up. Nope, she pushed my arm off and scooted away, telling me she only thought of me as a friend. She just wanted to sleep in bed with me, and that was it. Well, it's fine to be just friends. Friends sleep on the couch. So she got kicked back out to the living room. The really messed up thing is that it happened again a few months later with a completely different girl. Story 29. When I was in 8th grade, I became really good friends with a girl I had a crush on. We had a flirty relationship, and I was sure we were going to end up together. One day on our big class road trip to DC, we were sitting together in the tank bus. It was pretty late, so it was dark and quiet. Most of the other kids were asleep. Out of nowhere, she puts her hand under my chin and starts going in slowly for a kiss. Right before we met lips, she smiled and said, "Just kidding." A couple days later, I told her how I feel after some encouragement from my buddies. She did not feel the same way. She immediately tells her friends what I did, and my rejection is the talk of the 8th grade for the next couple of days. It gets worse. A couple of weeks after that, she starts dating a 9th grader who was infamous in her school. Oddly enough, they dated throughout all of high school and got married a couple of years into college. Story 30. This girl keeps texting me random stuff. Last week, she texted me to send her a pic of my legs. Like, what the hell? Who asks that? This was all at like 10 p.m. one night. Of course, I'm not just going to send her a pic, so I just replied, you first. I'm also under the impression that she's in a relationship, so I'm perplexed. Next day, she sends me a screenshot of my Bumble profile and says, you're too good to be on Bumble. Get the hell out. And I'm like, why are you even on it? She tells me she's single and broke up with her boyfriend. She didn't specify when, but she was still with him in late May, so it's only been a few weeks. Definitely don't want to be a rebound. Later, I tested her by texting her, still waiting for those leg pics. She then replies that she just wanted to show her friend a pic of my legs. So I just noped out since I'm 99% sure she just wants attention and I'm sure this isn't going anywhere. Story 31. In high school, one of my best friends was a girl. I'm a guy and I ended up developing a big crush on her. Her and I were incredibly flirtatious with each other, so I kind of started to think she liked me back. Her friends would always tell me, you two should date. You'd make a cute couple. I took this as another good sign she was into me. Later that summer, her and I were alone, looking at the stars when she started looking at me funny and we eventually kissed. From then on, she and I would hold hands in public and kiss each other whenever we would hang out and start progressing to more intimate things. We kept it a secret from our friends, and while neither of us said it, we were pretty much dating. Or so I thought. After that had been going on for a month, I was preparing to make it official and ask her to be my girlfriend. Around that same time, I heard that over the weekend she had fooled around with another guy. When I confronted her about it, she told me that I'm her best friend and she doesn't see me like that and that she had liked this other guy for a while. Moral of the story, apparently I'm pretty bad at reading the signs. Story 32. I'm not a guy, but still sort of relevant. Met on Tinder, had a few dates over the course of a few days, went out, got intoxicated, ended up making it official as girlfriends. Got it on. In the most basic sense, so she didn't have a clue what she was doing. I came back to mine the next day after staying at hers. She then left mine in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m., saying her friend was in trouble and needed to be picked up. Great day so far, so I didn't think anything was up. I didn't hear from her all night and the next morning, so I'm a bit worried, of course, as her friend was in trouble. I then finally got a message saying she can't be with me anymore, she's straight. Wait, what? Story 33. A woman I'd hung out with a few times texted me at roughly 3:30 to 4 in the morning, asking if I was up. I said I was in bed. She asked if she could bring beer and come over. Lol. I replied, sure, and don't even get out of bed. It was Friday and I hadn't even gone out. I played Mario Galaxy and went to bed at midnight. I assume if she's bringing beer over 2 hours before sunrise, it's because she wants it. She texts me when she pulls up. We settle in the living room. I get my arm around her. She hands me a Bud Light and I rub her shoulders. What are you doing? She asks. Shoulder massage? Why? I'm too tired to be clever. Isn't this a, what call? Oh my god, no, I just wanted to hang out. She's shocked. I take my arm away and try to laugh it off, but she's not having it. She immediately grabs all the beer and runs out, saying, I have to get out of here. I'm still half asleep and squinting on the couch as she dashes out and leaves my front door open. I close it and go back to sleep. Story 34. I had a friend that always loves to drop little hints to me. I imagine both of us living together one day. You want to be a movie director, right? I always wanted to marry a movie director. You're everything I always looked for in a guy. We were best friends, but I firmly believe that a man and a woman can be friends without feelings getting involved, so I didn't really like her. Anyways, she dated a lot of guys during our time as friends, and she always came to me to cry about how they were all schmucks and stuff. At first, I didn't have any feelings towards her, but slowly started to get attracted. After she came out of a particularly bad relationship, she asked me out on a date to get some coffee and talk about something that's been in her mind. I didn't think nothing of it. I've been thinking about a special guy. Oh? He's a long-term friend, funny, supportive, always makes me laugh. He's a great guy, really, and I really would love to be in a relationship with him. Sounds like a cool guy. I didn't want to assume it was me. He's very cheerful and he wants to be a movie director. Oh, crap, I thought. This is my chance to tell her how I feel about us. Looks like she feels the same about me. She reminds me so much of you. Story 35. I met this beautiful girl who worked at Spencer's. She seemed to be genuinely flirting with me, but I didn't think much of it at the time. A week or two later, I went back to the store for something else, and she was there. I finally got up the nerve to ask her out, and she said yes. We hung out a few times and smoked grass. I kissed her once, and it seemed well received. The last time we hung out, she even said something to the effect of, well, we haven't gone on our first official date yet. She also called me a few times late at night to talk about life and the future. All the signs were there, and opportunities seemed to present themselves constantly. For instance, I learned that she really liked the band Walk the Moon. At the time, I was working for a radio station. One day while driving, I heard a promotion that our station would be hosting a private mini-concert with a band in the studio. I immediately called work and asked if I could go and bring someone. They said absolutely, no problem. So I called this girl, but got no response. I called her again later, still no response. Over the next few days, I kept calling but never got an answer. Then one day I called from a different number and some guy picked up. I found out from him that she was dating him. Apparently they had broken up when I first started getting to know her. Heartbroken, I tried to speak to her directly, but she never spoke to me again. She seemed so cool, but she was incredibly immature in how she handled, or rather didn't handle, letting me know that she was just waiting for her ex to return. The worst part was that she couldn't just talk to me at the end. Story 36. I'm not a guy, but I thought one of my dude friends in high school was into me. I wasn't instantly attracted to him, but he was a cool, funny guy. He would sit and lean against me with his head on my shoulder or lap sometimes. People always thought we'd make a cute couple. I'm not used to being touched, so I thought his touchy-feely stuff meant he liked me. One day I had a weird dream about him that made me realize I had a crush on him. So I thought, what the hell? I messaged him on MSN telling him I liked him. He said he figured I did. News to me since I just discovered it myself, but he didn't see me that way. Flash forward 4 years later. We're both out of high school, but I hadn't seen him for a long time. We still talked over Messenger and social media, though. One day out of the blue, he messaged me and basically asked if I wanted to exchange V-cards with him. Honestly, I was kind of intrigued, but ultimately I said no. He ended up losing his V-card to his ex-girlfriend. He proceeded to tell me about it in messages and wanted to know if I'd exchange pictures with him. I declined. Not long after, he discovered he was actually gay. So I'm actually pretty relieved that I never took him up on his offers. I'm glad he discovered himself, but I think it would make me feel bad if the guy I lost my V-card came out of the closet afterwards. We don't talk much now. It's been years. It's still confusing, though. Like, why was he all touchy with me, then claim he's not into me, but then want to sleep with me and ask for pictures? I guess it was more confusing for him since he was gay. Story 37. A girl from my writing class told me she loved my stories and poems and asked if I could help her improve. We met up a few times and she started getting better and she asked if I'd like to get coffee with her to make things even. After we were done, she asked if I'd like to go to her house to watch Netflix. She said her parents wouldn't be back until after midnight and she was scared to be alone but felt safe with me. While watching Love Actually, she laid on my lap and was talking about how much I was like one of those characters and how she wants to date a guy like that. After the movie was over, it was getting late, so I excused myself and she walked me out to the porch. I went in for the kiss, and she freaked out about how all guys who do that are dogs and she thought we were friends. Story 38. The girl I had been crushing on for years in high school and had been flirting with for some time comes up to me in the hall and says, "Hey Kay, would you like to go grab lunch together tomorrow?" I was over the moon, ecstatic, and the lunch with her went really well. I paid, we were laughing, having a great time, then a few days later, I was talking to her about our date. Well, what I thought was a date. And she told me that she did not. She then told me she only liked me as a friend and she was actually interested in one of my friends. She was sorry for the confusion. We stayed friends, but it was rough. I passed away a little inside that day. Maybe more than a little. It took me a while, much longer than I care to admit, to get over that. And since then, I pretty much always insisted when asking someone out on clarifying that I'm asking them out on a date. Story 39. I met a beautiful, interesting woman at a language exchange. We started meeting up just by ourselves, once a month or so. She was flirty and touchy-feely. We always had a good time. After a couple of meetups, she said she doesn't want to continue with the language, but we still wanted to meet up. One time, she suggests we meet her 2 female friends for a drink. I end up talking with one of them a lot and noticed my friend giving jealous glances at us. It's time to pay. We all head over to the till. My friend has her arm around me and is leaning into me. We plan to go eat all together, but my friend says, "Let's go somewhere ourselves." I think it's a cert and tell her later I'd like to kiss her. She says no, we're just friends. And that's the last I saw of her. Story 40. This girl and I used to chill every evening, getting a drink, attending shows, etc. every day. She would often come to my place and wouldn't bring sleeping clothes and used to borrow my shirts to sleep in. She would change into the shirt right in front of me. We used to text a lot, every 2 to 3 hours before we slept off. Also, we used to make each other laugh out of our beds. On my birthday, she gave me a gift, i.e. a reused glass jar full of stickies, each sticky listing her favorite moment with me. We used to cuddle on the sofa while watching something on the TV or listening to music. I asked her out 2 days after I got the jar as a gift. She said she loves me as a friend, but doesn't like me enough to date me. I cut all contact with her immediately. She pings me from time to time if she needs anything. That is the limit of our engagement at this point. Story 41. I work with a 30-something Filipino girl at a large corporation. She had very long curly hair, a big smile, and was very friendly to me since the first day she was hired. She would seek me out regularly just to take a walk to the break room to get a snack. When we were alone, she touched my arm quite often, laugh at almost anything I said, and had something like a nervous habit where she kept raising one eyebrow as we were talking. Oh, and when we were alone, she'd take down her hair from her bun or ponytail every time. tossing and flipping it around the whole time. She put her hair up at all other times. To be clear, we were both married, and so I never even entertained the idea that something might happen. I told my wife, though. She thought I must be imagining things, so I never brought it up again. This went on for about 8 months until we hired a female friend of hers, and it was like it never existed. I'd see them walking to the break room together every day. Her hair was down, and she was acting to her friend exactly as she had been acting towards me. I told my wife. She laughed for a long time. Eventually, she told me that she thought it was funny because I thought she was flirting, but she really thought of me as her safe friend. She said, in her eyes, you might as well be gay. Story 42. There's a barista at my daily coffee shop who's a total dime, and I've had a major crush on her for the past month. Last convo, she seemed really flirty, getting close to me and touching my arm. I finally resolved myself to ask her out, having just returned from vacation. I go in and see that she's working, and I steel myself. She spots me and comes over and says, "Oh my god, you're back. How was your vacation?" Before I can even give her the line that I had saved in my head for the past week, she says, "We should get drinks sometime and you can tell me all about it." I'm thinking, holy crap, my crush asked me out. This has never happened to me in my life. So I get a number and we're chatting, and I mentioned something about getting drinks. She says, "Oh, wait, you're not hitting on me, are you?" Normally I'm very smooth, but the semi-accusatory nature of her question threw me for a loop, so all I could say was, why? She went on to say she had a boyfriend and she just wanted to hang out. I felt really guilty that I misread her and failed to salvage the conversation. In the end, I just awkwardly said goodbye and walked away. In case she sees this and knows who I am, barista, if you're reading this and know I'm talking about you, my bad. It happens all the time, but my lack of caffeine made me make it way more awkward. You're really cool, and I'm still down to just kick it sometime. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.